Hola amigos, bienvenidos. Hi friends, welcome back to the Language Tutor Spanish podcast, episode 25. We're talking about stem changing verbs today, the other kind that we talked about on YouTube. Last episode of the podcast, we talked about IE stem changers. Now it's UE stem changers. But before we get going, I just want to ask you, have you left me a voicemail yet? I'd love to hear from you how the podcast or the YouTube channel is helping you with your Spanish adventure and learning the language and practicing. Just look at the description down below of this episode of the podcast, and you can go to Anchor. Leave me a voicemail. I'd love to hear from you. And Anchor really doesn't allow anonymous voice messages, so you may have to create an account really quick, but that takes just a second. Leave me a voice message. I'd love to hear from you, and maybe even feature your voice message on an upcoming episode. All right, let's jump right into it. Let's first of all start with the 4 verbs that we learned on the YouTube episode. I'm just going to ask you how to say them in Spanish, and you just see if you can come up with it off the top of your head. First of all, how do you say to be able to or can? And that is poder. All right, now what about to return? The first form of return that we used. That is volver. And what about returning an object? That is devolver. And the next one we learned was to hurt. And that is doler. Doler. All right. Well, really quick, just remember, we're not going to go over the 3 rules of stem changing verbs again, but just remember where those stem changes occur. Now, for this episode, I'm just going to jump right into what we did last time, and that is using a new verb that we didn't cover on the YouTube channel to apply the same rules. So I'm going to use the verb dormir, dormir, which means to sleep. It's D-O-R-M-I-R. And I always tell my students it's easy to remember that one because where do you sleep? In a dorm. So, yeah. Well, if you're in college, right? You sleep in a dorm, and so that's an easy way to remember to sleep. Dormir. All right, so I'm going to give you random conjugations to come up with. Apply the stem changing rules, and you can just spit these conjugations out with no problem. Here we go. The first one is he sleeps. And that should be él duerme. Él duerme, using IR endings. The next one is they sleep if I'm just talking about girls. And that is ellas duermen. Ellas duermen. The next one is you sleep if I'm talking to a friend, one person. And that is tú duermes. Tú duermes. Next is she sleeps. And that's ella duerme. Ella duerme. Next one is you sleep if I'm talking to a group of people, but this is the form they only use in Spain. That is vosotros dormís. No stem change outside of the boot. Next one is I sleep. And that is yo duermo. Yo duermo. Up next is you sleep, talking to a group of people using the form that's used in all Spanish-speaking countries. And that is ustedes duermen. Ustedes duermen. Next up is we sleep. And that is nosotros dormimos. Dormimos. And now you sleep, speaking to one person, showing respect. And you should have gotten usted duerme. Usted duerme. Last one on this one is they sleep, and we're talking about a group of boys and girls, mixed or just boys. and that is ellos duermen. Ellos duermen. All right, and that wraps up our very first practice. All right, now let's jump into the next verb, which is jugar. Jugar, which means to play. Now, I'm just going to do what we did before. I'm just going to say the conjugation. I want you to think about it and just put it into Spanish. The first one is he plays. He plays. And that is él juega. Juega, using AR endings now. Up next is they play, talking about just girls. And that is ellas juegan. Ellas juegan. Next is you play, talking to one person that we know well who is a friend. And that is tú juegas. Tú juegas. Next is she plays. That is ella juega. Ella juega. And now you play, speaking to a group of people, the one they use only in Spain. That is vosotros jugáis. Vosotros jugáis. And now I play. Yo juego. Yo juego. Next is you play, speaking to a group of people, the one they use in all Spanish-speaking countries. And that is ustedes juegan. Ustedes juegan. And now we play. And that is nosotros jugamos. Nosotros jugamos. And up next is you play, speaking to one person, showing respect. That is usted juega. Usted juega. And now they play. That's speaking to a group of boys and girls mixed. And that is ellos juegan. Ellos juegan. Well, guys, that wraps up our second practice. Now, before I leave you today, I want to give you a verb that I want you to try on your own, okay? And that verb is encontrar. Encontrar, which means to find. It is spelled E-N-C-O-N-T-R-A-R. That's encontrar. Now use that verb to come up with your own conjugations. You can say he or she or we or they. Just run them all in your head as you're driving or working, whatever you're doing right now. But after we close the episode, just practice that verb and think through it. It's a 3-syllable, so think about where that stem change occurs. Encontrar. That'll be a good one for me to leave with you to practice, okay? Well, thanks for hanging out with me on this episode. I look forward to being with you on the next time on episode 26. And wherever you are, I hope you're having a great one. I wish for you paz y bendiciones, peace and blessings, and I'll see you next time on the Language Tutor Spanish podcast. Hasta pronto.